Hello there, and welcome to the channel. Well, I'm going to have to make this quick because, boy, I'm under the clock right now. The deadline is just fast approaching when I'm supposed to have this uploaded. But I've been thinking about it a lot, and so I'm just going to jump right in here and, consequences be damned. Ha ha! So, the first thing I'm going to say today is this is about writing, and anybody who's watched the channel or knows me at all knows how much writing means to me, how important it is, and how potent I find it. And as an English teacher, writing was one of the main tools I used to teach English. But writing should be used in every class, and it should be used because the people that change the world write it down, or their students too. And I think that writing is really thinking made solid. It's only through writing that a thinking person can get down their thoughts and examine them for organizational integrity, for logical consistency. If you don't write these things down, it's hard to examine them. Now, certainly meditation is wonderful, and just thinking about things is wonderful, but it's very difficult to examine what you say aloud and the way you think about things in your head without writing it down, because you're likely to be inconsistent. And I want to present you with a particular case of this. Recently, the HHS director, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., went before Congress for hearing about what he was doing with the organization he heads, which includes the CDC and HHS. And there were some things that really stood out in that hearing, and I'm surprised that more people weren't shocked by what happened in that hearing. And one of the first things I want to point out is that the HHS director brought no notes with him. He had nothing, not a single piece of writing in front of him to help guide him in what he was saying. Not only did this open him up for some terrible logical inconsistencies, but it showed an abiding disrespect for the people who are supposed to have his oversight. He just walked in there as if, I'm a Kennedy, so you better respect me, or I was nominated by President Trump, so you better respect me. I'm not going to respect you, you understand. You are not important. I am very, very important. And I know best, although I have no real education because I don't even write my own reports. I had AI do it. I'm getting distracted. Here's some of the things that happened. The first thing you noticed, or I noticed when I was watching the hearing, was the senators came with notes. They had things written down in front of them because they knew they needed to be consistent when they asked him questions. They knew they would need to be informed and have the information correct. He didn't care to. All right? So, what happened? He was asked by a Republican senator, don't you feel Donald Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize for the way he directed Operation Warp Speed, which brought about the invention of the COVID vaccine? And Robert F. Kennedy said, yes, I do. Then, said the senator, why did you say that vaccine has killed more people than it saved? How is this consistent? Well, he didn't say, how is this consistent? I ask you, how is this consistent? It obviously isn't. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. immediately said, I didn't say that. But there were cameras rolling, pal. He did another thing which I thought was repugnant in the extreme. He said that he asked a woman who was working for him, "Are you trustworthy?" And she said no. And then he fired her. Now, there are two ways to interpret this. The first one, I think, is the simplest, and I think it may be right. He was just flat out lying. He never asked somebody that kind of stupid question. But if he did, it was a setup, and this is something akin to the line that it followed, because I know these kind of snakes. He said to her, "I consider an employee trustworthy if they do what I tell them to do, and they say what I tell them to say. Now, are you trustworthy?" Now, if you weren't prepared for this kind of snake in the grass question, you would say, "No," meaning, "No, I'm not just going to lie blindly because you tell me so." The real answer to that is you are not describing someone trustworthy. You are describing someone who's blindly obedient to your whims. That is not trustworthy. That is obsequious. They are different things. No one should reside trust in someone who values obeying and bootlicking over truth. So either way, how he got to that point of saying, "Are you trustworthy?" "No," "Then you're fired." Either way, whether he lied about asking the question or he set her up with one of those weird, bizarre things, either way, he is a snake. And he did other things that were purely repugnant. Whenever someone was talking that he didn't like what they were saying, he would breathe more loudly into the mic. Why? Because he has a disorder, a health disorder, and it makes him pant. But I'm telling you right now, some of that panting was theatrical in order to make everybody uncomfortable, because that's what he does. He makes people uncomfortable, and he considers this a sign of his superiority to them, because they don't like to hear somebody wheezing loudly whenever they speak. It'll make them stop. You want to do it? Try it. Next time someone starts talking to you, start panting at them and see how long they talk. I will bet you money they stop pretty quickly, because that panting is gross. Let me get back to the written thing. There's an old sort of aphorism that people use. Where is it written? This goes back to the people of Israel. If something is written, that's a sign that it's of value. That's a sign that it has been solidified, and you can check and see if it's consistent. You can check and see if it's illogical. You can check and see who wrote it. When we write, we change the world. Writing is strangely physically permanent. We still have scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls, from thousands of years ago. That writing stood the test of time. We know about the Great Fire of London because someone was keeping a journal during the fire and wrote of the experience. We know of things because human beings wrote them down, and in that way, they tasted what immortality may well be. They tasted the reality that their experience, knowledge, and work can go on to serve others and form a bridge between their time and time to come. This power that writing has to form that bridge, and it forms it in such a potent way that you don't even need electronic devices to feel that bridge. You can pick up a piece of handwriting from your grandmother, your grandfather, and you can read it, and you can begin to relate to them in a whole new way. Or if you've been doing that all along, you can continue to relate to them even though they're absent from this earth. Writing is a way to understand the self and the world. It's a way to establish a life's experience. It's a way to keep records. Writing is one of the most important skills that any student of any subject will ever have. And so I deeply recommend that you have students write. I deeply recommend that people write. Not let AI do it, you do it, because you're the one that's being represented in it. That's it for today. I hope you have a gorgeous day, and I hope you see me again, you gorgeous people.